Hello, hello. How are you this Monday night? Just waiting for everything to connect. Before I jump right in. Alrighty, I think I am live everywhere. Fantastic. So I want to drop this in the chat before I forget. This is this is PowerPoint tonight, right? So week 1 we did Excel. Week 2 we did Microsoft Word, and last week we did Outlook. So tonight we are covering PowerPoint. So have you ever spent 20 minutes trying to get that one box to line up with another when you're trying to create a presentation and it's just not working quite right? And you nudge it and then it goes too far one way, and then you try to nudge it back and it's too far the other way, or you're trying to eyeball it, and the second you add one more box, the whole slide just goes awire on you. Yeah, I've had that happen. Now, tonight, it's not about being a designer. It's about a handful of tools that you learn in the ribbon of PowerPoint that makes PowerPoint do all the work. So instead of fighting slide by slide, you get the hang of it and it makes it easier, or you create your slide master to do it for you. Hey everyone, I'm Maria Slabo, founder of Tech Savvy Nurse Beyond Bedside Skills. I am an award-winning nurse with over 20 years in IT and more than a decade in nursing. So I've actually lived both worlds. And now I help nurses build real tech skills so that they can either step into non-bedside roles or really use technology without being overwhelmed by it. So, and tonight here we are learning, the basics. Okay. I go deeper in my program, but tonight it's really just the basics. And here's what I've learned when I've watched other healthcare professionals struggle with technology. It's not that they're not capable or have lack of ability. It's because they were never actually taught how to use the tools. They're just expected to know it. So I want to say this clearly before we even start, and you may have heard this before. You are not bad at tech, okay? You are not bad at tech. You were just never taught this. So I want to say this clearly so that you understand that it's not you. It's a failure to be trained properly on the technology that you are expected to know. So before we go any further, tell me in the chat, scale of 1 to 10, how much time have you wasted trying to finagle a slide so that it looks just right, or that things align just right, or you built it from scratch and it was just easier than trying to fix, you rebuilt it versus trying to fix what you already had built. So just 1 to 10. 10 being, yep, did that all the time, struggle all the time. 10 being, no, I've got it, I'm good. So I'll take a look at the chat in a little bit. So here's what we are covering tonight. 3 weeks in the ribbon so far, like I mentioned earlier. We did Excel, then we did Word, then we did Outlook. Now tonight it's the same logic, but we are using PowerPoint. And for those of you who don't know what PowerPoint is a presentation software. So I know a lot of, there are some other presentation software out there that you may be able to use. However, I know that most healthcare organizations or financial organizations or realtors may want to use a Microsoft product. So that's why I focus on Microsoft products. So I just want to point that out. There are other alternatives to PowerPoint, but I focus on PowerPoint. Now, when I tell you that you are not bad at technology, I truly mean that. You have not been given the skills or the know-how to use the technology platform. So that's what I'm here doing for you every Monday night. I give you a little bit of learning, if you will, over the course of 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the topic. I answer any questions that you may have. I'm also available via DM or email me. You can jump on my email list and I'm happy to respond to you. So, what I want to point out is that tonight will be about the ribbon primarily. We will get a little bit into the guts of how to maybe modify your slide master, which is kind of the definition of how your slides get created. We can do that a little bit. If you want more in depth, that's something separate that I can certainly arrange for you. All right, so let me go ahead and share my desktop. I'm just going to move my notes out of the way because you know me, I like to make sure I have all my notes so that I make sure I cover everything. So I am going to share my screen, and this is my PowerPoint slide. Now I've already opened the program, and what you can see is a blank slide here. And this is really the presentation title slide. This is the first slide that you see when you first open up PowerPoint or when you first create one. Now, I just created or I opened a blank one and I did not select a theme. Now, in PowerPoint, there are a variety of themes, colors, schemes, fonts, the whole 9 yards. I am not going to cover that. We can do that at a different time. Tonight, it's really just about the ribbon. So like we had in all the other platforms, we have this ribbon, and you'll see that it has file, it has home, it has insert. You may remember those from all the other programs that we used over the last 3 weeks. They're basically the same thing. It's just now it's focused on this particular platform, which is PowerPoint. It's a presentation software. So on our file, this is where you'll find your, you can print to a PDF, all of that. You can open, you can close. On your home tab, this is where you'll probably spend the majority of your time. I really don't want to give a percentage because it really depends on if you're going to use transitions, animations, all of that. So it really depends on how you're going to set up your slides. So on this one, you have your clipboard, which is the same as it was in all the other platforms. The copy paste, you have your format painter here. You may remember this from a previous Monday Night Live that I went over. This is a nice tool if all of a sudden you're doing a one-off and you have a little text that you want to format the same as something else that's on the page. You can do that as well. You have the way to add a new slide. There is, of course, a new slide using Copilot, which is Microsoft's AI technology. And then you have a variety of different slide masters, if you will, that you can use. So if I wanted to insert a new slide, right, I right-clicked. But if I wanted to change this slide, I select the slide and we'll say I want this one to be a section header type slide. I did that by just selecting the slide that I wanted, the slide I want to change. And then from here, I can change it to whichever one I want. So I can have text on either side. I can do a comparison, last year, this year kind of thing, or before and after kind of thing. And what you'll notice on this slide is that you have options of what you want to add. So you can insert a video, you can insert an image, you can insert a smart graphic, which we'll go into later the um, in the live tonight. And you can do that on both. So each one can have it separate. So you can change the way that this particular slide looks. When you go to the next one and you just click new slide, it's going to duplicate, most likely in some cases, the same slide that you had. If I wanted a different slide, I can do that here and say, I just want title and contents, which is typically what you see when you do presentations, right? You have your title slide, kind of your subject of the title of the slide, and then bullet points typically on a slide. Now you can always add a section. Now adding a section means that if you are like, say you're doing a multi-presentation or a multi-person presentation, you and somebody else, right? And you wanted to add a section, but you wanted all your slides to be in one slide file, right? So everybody's going to have all their slides in this one slide file. You can just add a section as like a break of saying this is going to be Joanne's section, right? So it's kind of like a reminder to you, like, okay, I'm going to now introduce Joanne, or I'm going to now introduce, Jim, or Paul, or whoever's next, right? So you can separate it by sections. So it's a nice feature. Now you'll also see that now I have a font area as well, like I had in Paragraph, like I had in all the other tools. So it's the same. If I were here, this is what my default text is and size, right? So I can, this is my title slide. Right? And when I click on it, when I select it, I can change the font, right? So I can say I want it this, I want it bold, and I don't know, I want it this bright blue, right? It would only apply to this slide because I didn't change it on the master slide. So you want to be careful when you change things from slide to slide because it won't reflect throughout your entire slide deck. So be careful as you create your slides. The same with the text here. You can add your various content here. Right? And if I select this and I say, I want this to be this instead, you'll notice that it will be here. Now, if I were to add another new slide, you'll see that it copied basically what I had, right? It copied the same format of the last slide. But when I type here, and this is my next slide title, right? It's not that blue that I had because I only formatted that blue on that last slide. So I don't want to get into the slide master too much tonight, but just know that if you start changing fonts from one slide to another, you really want to use the slide master and change your slide master so that your fonts are consistent throughout your presentation. And remember with presentations that the presentation is you. Okay, the presentation is you are providing the overall structure of whatever you're speaking to. The slide itself should just be bullet points. It should not be paragraphs. It should not have a lot of content on it. Picture, white space, because if you were in the presentation room, you want to make sure when you are speaking to them that you have their attention, right? You don't want to be having a whole bunch of text on a slide because you're going to lose them because they're going to read the slide. So, bullet points on your slides, make sure they're readable. I will caution you when you use a dark background, use a lighter color text like white. If you use a white background, make sure you use darker color text like black because you want to make sure that it's readable from the back row. Whoever is in that back row may have a difficult time reading that text. Next is the way that you format your slides, and you'll notice that it's not available, it's grayed out unless you're actually in something, right? Unless you're selecting a piece of content, you can't change anything. So as I click on this, I now have my bullet points. So I can either take them away or add them, or maybe I want check boxes or just boxes. We can change the way that we have this slide. Now, I do want to point out that you'll see that this design suggestions does pop up for me, and it just does. And sometimes I use it. It does give you the ability to, use various backgrounds or various ways of displaying the data that you already have on your slide itself. So based on your data, it may provide you a different way to kind of make it look a little bit different. So something to think about. Now, you can also, when you are on here, you can change anything. And again, I do caution you when you change it on the slide itself, you want to make sure that if you're changing it more than once, that you go to your slide master so that your slides look consistent. Now you can also change your paragraph markings, and I'm just going to put some stuff in here so we can show you. You can see as I roll over these, it gives you a little bit more space. The slide or the line spacing will increase or decrease depending on what you select. And then you can change the way that your text looks depending on, whatever you're presenting. So just some various ways of showing your text on a slide. Next, you have, sorry, itchy nose. Next, you have drawing, and drawing is just that. It allows you to add an arrow, right? And then you can change the way that that arrow looks. So we could say, I want this to be red, and I want it to be maybe green. Yeah, maybe green. And then I can also make it, let me see. It's not going to show very well on here. All right, so let's go to word art. Word art allows you to format your letters to look a little bit different, right? And this can be good and bad. Depends on what you're trying to accomplish with the letters or with what's on your page. So as you can see, as I roll over these, some of these look a lot better than others. Like this one, unless I had a dark background, I probably would never use it. This one isn't bad. This one isn't bad. It's just, depending on the color. So just be cautious of this. Now, I would suggest with any text that you do add alt text. For those with accessibility, they won't be able to screen read. I'll go back to my home tab. Then we have editing, which is your find and replace. We've seen this before. You can replace fonts. You can select individual items or select all items on a page. It doesn't select all within the presentation that I found. Moving over to our Insert tab. This is where you can insert a new slide, you can insert a table, you can insert pictures, whether they are online pictures, pictures from your own device, or any stock images. So like online pictures. Adobe does give you some, if my connection will work, will give you some items that you can select from. So I'll just pick these polar bears, and you can see you can just drop it right in. And you will notice that this photo is licensed by, and it gives you all that information. So you will be compliant with using this. And then your alt text, you would update this so that it reflects what you want it to say. Okay. Next, you have cameos or shapes. And again, we had shapes before. When I select on this, let me add a new shape. I can change the outline and the fill. So as you can see, they're kind of two different. So if I fill that and then I change my outline, I'm going to change it to lime green so that you can really see it a little bit better. What you'll notice, maybe if I bring this up, you can see that the outline is lime green. Now, I can change this to say, you know what, I want the outline to be dashed or dashed like that. Or I want it to be sketched, which would give you kind of a different look. So there are a lot of different things that you can do on your Insert tab when you have your item selected. Now, oops, I don't want to do that. Icons are just that. It's going to be like little widget type icons, only because it's taken a minute. I'm not sure why. I'll come back to that. Smart art, I'm going to blow this down a little bit. Smart art is a nice way for you to demonstrate a visual explanation of what you're presenting, right? So if it's a list, so when you first open it up, it shows all, and then you can scroll through all of them. If you wanted to just look at list, it would give you a list, and it will give you kind of a demonstration of what it would look like, or a preview over on the right-hand side. If you wanted to show a process, there are various ways to show processes. And this is a nice way to kind of break up the monotony of using PowerPoint slides. And then, of course, you have, cycle views of various things like PDSA or hierarchy. Most people know this as like an org chart, right? So you would see who belongs to who, or relationships. If something goes up, something else goes down, or however you want to display a funnel, if you will. So there are a variety of different ways that you can use smart art. And then on charts, you can actually copy and paste an Excel chart into your PowerPoint slide. You can literally select the chart from Excel, do Control-C, come over to PowerPoint and do Control-V and paste it. And that's really nice. You can also embed it, but that's a different thing. So you can create your own chart in PowerPoint, or if it's already created in Excel, you can just copy and paste it. regardless of what kind of chart it is. So if it was a pie chart, same thing, you could copy and paste it. Okay, links. These literally are links, like you are linking text to something else. An action, if you wanted something to happen, this is more advanced, but if you wanted something to happen when you clicked on something or you moused over something. And then there's comments. If you're working with like a Word document, when you turn on track changes, you can add comments to your slides so that if you're sharing a slide deck, you can put notes in here. On draw, it's the same thing. You can use these tools to draw with these different colors. Design. Design is where you're really selecting the color palette for your slides. Now, I'm just going to create a new blank presentation, and I'm going to go to my design slide. And what I want you to see is what happens when I just roll over these. So you can see, do I like that color? Is that color going to work for me? So let's just pick this one, right? And you'll see there are colors here, and we can, decide we want to use a different color, or if there's a variant, you can change variants, or fonts, you can change fonts. So there are a variety of different things that you can do with design. Transition. So transition is, and I want to explain transition versus animation. So transition is between slides. So you go from this slide to that slide. How do you transition from those slides? Do you morph? Do you fade? Do you push? And if you push, which way? Or you wipe, or you split? So it all depends on what happens to your slide when you go to that next slide. That is what transition is. Animation is what is happening on the slide. So are the words bouncing? Are they appearing? Are they fading? Are they flying in left, right, up, down? There's a variety of different things that you can do with animation on the slide. So transition is between slides. How do you get from one slide to the next? Animation is on the slide. Now, you can always, look at your slide deck before you actually present. And I highly recommend that you do. And you can do it from the current slide, or you can do it from the beginning. So some people aren't aware that down in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see this little kind of presentation and it's, when I hover over it, it says slideshow. When I click on that, what you're going to see is my presenter view, okay? And over on my other screen is actually the presentation. So if I had words on this screen, you would see the words. And then over on this side, this particular one shows you the next slide. So what comes after this one? And there's also the ability to have notes. So I'll show you that. Down underneath every slide, you have this area here. These are your slide notes. And this shows on the screen when you are in presenter mode. So I'll click this again, and you'll see these are my slide notes. So this is nice. So when you're actually given a presentation, they're looking over at that presentation that you're presenting on, at that slide, and your notes are here. And they don't know that you have notes here. And then you would go to your next slide, and this slide would pop over. So nice thing to have. Record is if you are recording this, and this is in PowerPoint itself, okay? I normally don't record in PowerPoint, but there is the ability. Review is just that. It's like track changes. right? So you can add comments, you can delete previous, next, show comments, all of that. That's all this is. And then view is how you want your slides to look. So this is a normal view. This is an outline view. Slide sorter. So if I had multiple slides, this is how it would look, right? Notes pages. So if I go back to my first page, you'll see my slide notes here. So if I were to, let me just increase this so you can see it. I can print this so that people either have my notes or that I have my own notes. And you can decide if you want to print with the slide notes or not when you actually print it out. And then there's a slide master. This will actually show you the slide, or the notes master. This will actually show you the notes master. And you can use the ruler. I like to use the ruler myself. I like grid lines, but sometimes they're not where I want them, but you have the ability to add grid lines. I'm going to go back to my normal view so you can see what it would look like. And you can see the grid lines are here. I do like guides because I can move my guides to wherever I want. It allows me, let me move this back down. It shows me where all the guides are. And then of course, help. Acrobat, you may or may not have, but Acrobat I have. But the help, you can get help within the online application. It will connect to the Microsoft server. So that really is, like I said, I think most of the time you will be on the Home tab. You may be on transitions or animation. I mean, it really depends. And obviously insert. I think those are probably the big ones that most people use. Because if I wanted to insert a picture or I wanted to insert a table, I could, right? Just like that. And then, you know, to add an extra line, it would, you know, I would just tab over and let me get rid of those guides because it's hard to see with those. You know, you could, when you're on this last column, I just hit tab on my keyboard and I add another line. Now let's say that I needed to remove it. I can go to my layout and I can select this line and I can hit delete row. Easy like that. So there's a lot of information about PowerPoint and what you can use and how to create your presentation. Tonight, again, was just an introduction to the ribbon so that you get more familiar with what you will find where and how so similar it is from application to application, right? So it really is nice once you learn one ribbon, you kind of know where things will be found regardless of what application you're using, whether it's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneNote, any one of them, you're going to find similar information on those various tabs. All right. So tonight, I just want to, you know, here's what I want you to take away from this. You know, the ribbon isn't hard to understand. It's not one thing. There were buttons, there are menus, and it's been there the entire time and maybe a little bit overwhelming because you're not sure where to look for stuff, or you know you saw it someplace, but I don't remember where it was. So if you've been, you know, struggling with PowerPoint, don't struggle anymore. I have, and I will drop it in the chat again. I have a freebie that I am going to drop in the chat so that if you are interested in it, feel free to jump on it and grab it. Um, if you want to keep going, I have other tools available to help you with your Microsoft Office suite. And um, this covers all 4 applications: Microsoft Word, Excel, Outlook, and now PowerPoint over the last 4 weeks. So next week, there will not be a live. I can tell you that right now. Unfortunately, I won't be able to jump on live, but we will start back up on the following week, which will be August 10th. And we will jump right into something more about Microsoft Office. So I will be back soon with something new. And so in the meantime, all 4 replays will be in my Facebook community. And if you want to go back through any of them, they'll also be on my YouTube channel. So feel free to grab it there as well. So until next time, keep building your confidence, one skill at a time. Good night.